Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. Today, we're being joined by Chris Spurvey, author of It's Time to Sell. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Paul. It's an honor. I'm looking forward to this. I've been looking forward to it for a while.
Looking forward to it as well, my friend. Are you ready to get started?
Let's do it.
All right. Question number one. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
That's a great question. And the first thing that comes to mind is find a coach, somebody who can really drive, help you break through the inertia. It's not an easy task, and it's always nice to have somebody who's been there, done that, and someone to hold you accountable to the steps along the way. The other thing, and I'll just throw this other piece out if you don't mind, start telling people about this book you have in your head that you're in the process of writing, and by telling people about your upcoming book publishing, you are holding yourself accountable by telling other people about it. So I think it's all about accountability.
And what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
Breaking through that inertia. If I hadn't have hired somebody to coach me through the process, I know for a fact I never would have published the book. I just would have given up because, how do you write a book? If someone just had to say to me, Chris, go write a book, and I hadn't had any experience doing it, I wouldn't really know where to start. So that's how what I would suggest is the hardest part, just breaking through that inertia.
Well, I think it's the biggest thing, too, having someone that's going to help keep you accountable, whether it's a coach, whether it's a publisher, but having someone that you can work with, someone that knows the process with the writing, publishing, the marketing, because, you're going in with that first book and you're taking the plunge, but you're kind of without a raft, if you know what I mean, because you need someone that's going to be able to help you through that process, someone that's been there, done that, and can keep you accountable with getting to the next phase with getting it done.
Absolutely. I mean, I got to the point where I had my transcript, but I didn't know where to go then. I mean, little did I know that really the process was just kind of starting, so having somebody to guide you is so important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. It really does make a big difference. Now, in regards to marketing, I'd like for you to please share a marketing strategy that you have used in your book launch that has worked well.
Yeah, well, I'll share two, if you don't mind. Number one, I got through the process and I was getting close to publishing, and I realized outside of my mom and dad, I had no one to buy the book. So I started, through the process of writing the book, I had created a lot of content. And I knew by taking that content and starting to publish articles and different things online, and I jumped on the LinkedIn publishing platform, and I would, at the bottom of all my articles, indicate I'm having a future book launch, and I started a newsletter. So I would invite people to sign up for my newsletter to learn more about the upcoming book launch. And so that's definitely a strategy that worked well for me. The other thing that I did is I wrote a book that, and it was kind of accidental to be frank, but in hindsight, it was a book that could be consumed by many people in an organization. So what I ended up doing was sending free copies of my book to the owners of businesses, the CEOs of businesses, and they would read the book and conclude that, oh my God, this book is beneficial to everyone in the organization. And I've had companies of 6,000 and 7,000 employees buy a copy for every employee. So, so those are two tips that I've used in an effort to sell books.
Well, I'd like to touch on about writing articles on a LinkedIn publishing platform. So could you tell us more about that process?
Yeah, well, back in 2015, when I first started to write my book, LinkedIn had opened it up so that anybody on the platform could write an article and publish it as a part of their profile. And when you published it, your connections would be notified that, Chris Spurvey has published an article, and would give the title. And so I would, as I'm writing my book, dive into an article as a part of the writing, publish it on LinkedIn, and all my connections were notified. And the more I did that, the more kind of virality kind of took place. It's a bit of a different land now. LinkedIn hasn't made it. It kind of took away some of the power of the virality, but it's still possible. I actually only got an email last night from a friend who I've been coaching, and he published an article yesterday that's gotten over 90,000 views in the last 24 hours. So it is possible still today.
So your friend who got the 90,000 views, what do you think caused that article to go viral?
Yeah, great question. I would suggest it's a very relevant topic. Using hashtags that that his audience or his connections would resonate with. Reaching out to a few strategic connections, perhaps like myself, after publishing an article, and asking me to share it with my audience. And asking me to comment on it along with other people as well. So, creating a little bit of momentum at the start of publishing an article. And sometimes that can help. But ultimately, it's all about writing something that's actually good, right?
Absolutely, because I think that's one of the biggest things that's changed in the last few years. 4 or 5 years ago, a lot of this stuff that you'd post could go viral very easily, because LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram, they weren't pushing down everything, because they obviously, to get all these views now, want you to pay for the privilege. But from what your friend was doing in regards to utilizing hashtags effectively, clearly that's something that caught on very quickly and something that couldn't necessarily get pushed down.
Right. No, absolutely.
So the article that you wrote, how many articles, was it just one article, or did you do multiple articles when you're utilizing the publishing platform?
I have written over 150 articles on LinkedIn, and some of them a couple of them were home runs, a couple of them bombed and never did anything. So yeah, I mean, again, it's just, and sometimes it's so easy to get caught up in the numbers. But what I learned through that was, if you are just genuine and authentic and writing articles about things that you care about and that you believe in, some of them will resonate, and some of them will not. I've written a lot of articles over the years.
What were some of the things that you saw, that specific things that you would talk about, were the ones that would really catch fire?
The ones that would really catch fire were articles where I exposed some of my vulnerabilities in an effort to help other people. I remember writing an article about having a really bad day, and talking about how when I picked my daughter up at flute lessons that evening, that I had the bad day. She got in the truck and listened very attentively to me as she asked me questions, and I replied back, and so on. And that particular article took off and got well over 1 million views. So what I would say, it was an article that was genuine, and it just was real Chris Spurvey, if that makes sense.
No, it does. And I think that's the biggest thing, and this is what I always suggest to my clients too, is be vulnerable in your books. Talk about challenges. My very first book was about struggling with weight, where I went from 340 pounds to 280 pounds and did what only 5% of the population can do, and that's actually keep the weight off. But I shared everything.
Wow,
I shared the struggles, the vulnerabilities, all the challenges that go into losing weight and keeping it off. And that's the main thing I always tell my clients, is that is how you connect with other people. And whether you're writing a blog or a book or a guide, that's the biggest thing. People want to be able to connect with you. And if you are utilizing it to build your business, to build a service, then that's how you do it. It's not about a pitch. It's not about having a script. It's about genuinely connecting with the other person. And when you do that, it's a game changer.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that really resonates. And that's the stuff that catches fire online and that people actually want to hear. They want to know that you're just like them, right? And I'm not a fan of all the a lot of what I perceive as the perfection online. Yes. I believe in sharing the dark side just as much as the good side.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of books, I'd like to know, what is your favorite book and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
That's an excellent question, and it's a book I doubt anybody has ever said on the show. It's by an author by the name of Richard Brooke. Richard wrote the book Mach 2 with Your Hair on Fire, and the subtitle is The Art of Personal Motivation and Vision. And what I learned from that book is that we all have a vision for our life, and either we decide that it's going to be a positive, forward-looking vision, or it's a vision of apathy and kind of staying the way we are. And so it was a very impactful book that I read at a very, very vulnerable point in my life, and I've carried that book along. It's a narrative format, which I find, for me personally, my book is a narrative, I should mention, and it had such an impact on me that I said, if I ever make it, quote unquote make it, I'm going to write a book that's a narrative as well, and that book became It's Time to Sell.
And for a final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
I'm not sure if it's a quote as such, but something I say, a mantra, let's call it. It's to get the energy to do the thing. Sometimes we just got to do the thing. And I'm a sales consultant out there with many businesses, and a lot of my clients look at me and say, I can't do that, and I say, you know what? To get the energy to do the thing, just go and do the thing. And it seems to work. You kind of just get over that inertia, as I mentioned in the early part of the show.
Absolutely. Well, Chris, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
Best way is my website, chrisspurvey.com, CHRISSPURVEY.com.
Chris, thank you once again for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
You're welcome, Paul. It was great.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how you can be featured in our brand new Get Published business book, go to getpublishedpodcast.com.